Greetings this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you all?
Good.
Oh, thank you. Allow me to begin this interaction by explaining that very often we find in viewing your society, in interacting with members of your society, that you do sometimes, in that sense, shall we say, put out to the universe mixed signals. You are, in that sense, creators of your own reality, as we and many others upon your planet have discussed many times. But understand that one of the things that allows you to be an effective creator is clarity. Clarity of your intention. Clarity of your vision. Therefore, very often, individuals will from time to time be nebulous in what it is they wish to do, be vague in what it is they wish to do, or in fact, contain contrary, contradictory definitions within them that in that sense send out mixed messages to the universe. You may entitle this interaction, if you wish, Expect the Best. One particular example of what we are speaking of was something that we did discuss, perhaps as far as you are concerned, many months ago with a particular individual. And this was the idea of being taught as you are growing up, being ingrained with, presented with the idea of expecting the best, but preparing for the worst, just in case. This, in that sense, is a paradox, is an irony, is self-contradictory. For the preparation for the worst, as you say, is in and of itself a statement. And in that sense, if that preparation takes the form of action, takes the form of doing something to prepare, that actually puts out more blatantly the message of expecting the worst than expecting the best. For if you as a concept expect the worst, but your actions reflect expectations of the worst, when you are in that sense expecting the best conceptually, those actions, that preparation, in and of itself, midwifes in, perhaps again, colloquially speaking, the worst outcome. Therefore, we speak many times about your attitude shaping your reality. It is, in that sense, only truly a middle person toward doing so, for it is the actions that you assume that literally creates the reality, that brings it from mentalizing, from thought process to reality. We have also discussed recently that while you are mentalizing, thinking, interpreting a situation, that before you proceed in action, particularly if your interpretation and attitude is negative, that you at least provide one other positive alternative before proceeding, so at least you have a choice. For whatever you act, whatever idea you act on as a foundation, the actions are what create the reality in this physical set of circumstances. So once again, you can therefore think anything you wish. You can think, I expect the best. But what you do determines it. So if I, in thinking, expect the best, but in action, prepare for the worst, that preparation, that defense sets up the attack. The preparation for the worst is the same as saying, I truly believe I will receive the worst outcome. And as an reinforcement for the fact that I believe this, I will set up a defense. I will set up protection just in case. Now understand that that just in case clause is what allows more probability for the negative outcome. As we have again shared many times, all situations in your life are neutral and have no built-in meaning. And your assignment of the meaning in a given situation determines the effect you get out. This happens and works in that sense across the board. So in preparing for the worst, you are assigning the meaning that I expect the worst. Here is the blatant proof from my actions that I expect the worst. I am setting up protection just in case. Therefore, from now on, decide, if you wish, decide what it is that you wish to occur. Decide if you wish to, in that sense, be looking out for the best or the worst in any given situation. Be purposeful about it. And if your decision is to expect the best from what is available, from what is right there, then pay particular attention to your actions. And should you find yourself in the performance of those actions, setting up, preparing just in case, stop yourself. Ask yourself, what must I believe to be doing this? And you will find the overwhelming primary belief is that the worst is yet to come. But should you decide that you wish, again, the most positive outcome from any neutral situation, simply use the tool of your imagination to provide an alternative scenario. If you are, in that sense, performing actions, expecting and preparing for the worst, then those are the actions that an individual who believes in the worst outcome would perform. Therefore, you already have the model for the negative outcome. But you are infinite creators with infinite choice. Therefore, you can also use your imagination to project. All right, now that I see what preparing for the worst is a representation of, what the belief is behind that idea, now I will give myself that other alternative. I will look in that sense before I leap. All right, what then if I truly believe, or if a person, if you wish to remove it once from yourself, who truly believes in the positive outcome, what do I see that person doing in my imagination? And then allow that tool to provide your specific self-tailored answer. Then look at those actions. They will differ, I assure you, from the protective mode, the expecting and preparing for the worst mode. Then you will have two sets of actions. Then you have a choice. You will always find that your imagination can always, in any given situation, provide a set of actions that will be representational of your desired outcome and, in fact, of your desired self. For you already create with this mechanism, though very often due to societal ingraining, the imagination is geared toward the negative outcome. You use your imagination many times to prepare for the worst. Therefore, you already do this. Already. And it is not a matter of building up any strength or exercising or creating a new ability. No. It is taking that ability you already have and beginning to apply it according to preference, according to your integrity, according to your excitement, according to what it is that you desire, simply because you know if you are in your integrity, It can only be of service to yourself, can only be of service to others. So therefore, the only reason you need have for choosing a positive perspective is because you say so. And that is all. That is really all there is to it. You get to choose. If you automatically make a choice without quote unquote thought or thinking, it is still a choice. Perhaps when you do not provide other options, it seems like the only choice. But what we are sharing is a very simple way to imbue, to utilize your imagination in any given situation. Simply, in that situation, whatever the situation is, be specific to the situation that is right in front of you. Hand it over to the preferential you in your imagination, the referential, preferential you, and watch what it does before you act. You can still act the negative way. Nothing is being lost or taken from you. But most often when you provide a positive alternative, that comes from the vibration of who you prefer to be. Just in giving yourself the benefit of that doubt, so to speak, you will give yourself a more desirable set of actions. For if two things are lying in front of you, one is an automatic reaction that will obviously yield the negative result, and the other is in the same exact neutral situation, a set of actions that can only give you at least a different result, and because the approach is positive, a more positive result. It is then not difficult to choose. You are then not acting that, in that sense, on automatic pilot. Automatic pilot is simply when you feel something, acting without thought, without evaluation. In a sense, it has become automatic to do so. But understand that when you begin to give yourself the positive choices, the referential, preferential you will find that you only do so by effort at first. For you are replacing the habitual ritual of simply moving according to negative assignment with a new alternative. And you will find that perhaps at first, yes, you need to go through that set of steps, conjuring up the preferred you and handing it over and watching what it does and perhaps rejoicing at the ingenuity within you. But you will quickly find, if you act on what your imagination provides in this specific way, that you will, by getting that result, also begin to do that automatically. Therefore, no process is truly required. Simply a changing of perspective, a changing of your interpretation and attitude, and your willingness to evaluate before you act. And it is that simple. Eventually, your preferential you in your imagination will simply be coughing up automatically the actions at first. And perhaps you will then need to grope to even find the negative interpretation, attitude, and action. So it really only takes a slight shift in your perspective, but truly this is created by the mere willingness to do so, rather than to function on automatic. The mere willingness to say, there even might be an alternative here. I know if what I am about to do, if I do it, I will have a negative result. I know it. It happens all the time, you may say. Therefore, you can now give yourself the alternative. And you do not need, in that sense, to call me, open a book, call a friend. You can do this, and we are not discouraging sharing what you find. But what I am saying is that you contain within you everything you need to transform. And being that it is eternal and internal, you don't need anything outside of yourself. You will find that when you are willing to consult your referential, preferential you in your imagination, that it will take on a life of its own. And gradually, though sometimes quickly, you will simply find yourself automatically being that you, out of preference, out of joy, out of desire, because you say so. And perhaps are sick, in that sense, using your colloquial language, of settling for less than who you desire to be. You really can expect the best and, so to speak, prepare for the best, much in the way that you used to prepare for the worst. Is this clear? Therefore, we always, in interacting with you, expect the best from you and have never one single time been disappointed. We are not here to give you something you must have that you are depraved without. No. In fact, we are not even here to really say that you are doing anything wrong. No. You are who you are. You are the creators of your reality. We are who we are, the creators of our own reality. We desire and choose, by choice, choose to share our perspectives because they have worked for us. But make no bones about it. Your perspectives have worked just as well for you. We do, however, detect that you are now beginning to desire a positive outcome, a perfect positive outcome, as perhaps opposed to the perfect mixed outcome that you create. So therefore, what we share with you is not something that you are without. You contain what I am sharing. And we simply, in that sense, allow you to see that the seed already exists within you. All you need to do in that sense, if you wish, is add a little bit of water, a little bit of light, and it will grow automatically. But we are not planting anything within you. And anything you find as joyful, helpful, ecstatic, that comes from our stream of information, only does so and only translates and makes sense to you because you already contain it. Therefore, my purpose is simply to share with no insistence involved. Therefore, whenever I am interacting with any individual from your society or the many societies that we interact with, I always expect you to be the best you are, the best you that you are now expressing, and have never again once in any way been let down. Though, in that sense, even if you did not believe in yourself, I would still believe in you anyway. So therefore, I never will be let down. You can feel the same way about yourself. Otherwise, you would not even be able to perceive that I feel that way about you. Therefore, I thank you for your willingness to begin to explore many avenues. Begin to knock down, in a sense, the maze of walls that you create within your consciousness. And begin to express yourself as one unbroken, continuous, whole consciousness, which is what you are from our perspective. In appreciation for your willingness to look beyond daily life in that sense, beyond what your eye can see, while still remaining completely involved in it, grounded in that sense. I ask you now, how may I be in sharing, in love, of service to you, and as well allow you all to be of service to us as well? Sharing.
Elan.
Ace.
Hi.
Greetings.
I usually just have one little question, but I'm kind of glad it's a small group tonight because I have quite a few. My first question is, you live in the fourth dimension?
Well, in a sense, perhaps more appropriately would be fourth density of awareness. And as you move up the particular scale we are speaking of, which by the way is not a law but an arbitrary designation, one is less dense in consciousness. So therefore, perhaps that would translate to slightly more expanded.
Well, okay. Here on Earth, there's, I guess it's a law of duality that for each amount of good energy, there's an equal amount of negative or dark or bad. And I'm wondering if in the fourth density, does that exist?
Well, not really in the way that you mean. And understand that it only exists in your density because of your own definitions. You are in a, shall we say, physical universe that contains the concept or exploration of polarity. You sometimes will break this down to positive and negative. Therefore, in your expansion, you will become more aware, more expanded. But because polarity is one of the explorations in this particular physical universe, you will become more aware of both the positive and the negative. But here is the key, and ties very directly into what we discussed at the beginning of this interaction. Thinking about the negative, thinking about the positive, has no physical effect. Perhaps if that's all you think about, you can create that as well. But the idea is that it is the actions that you perform that actually give you the seemingly positive or negative outcome. So therefore, you can explore all the negativity you wish. You can look at all the issues within you that you wish. Only when you act with that negative foundational belief do you then get the negative result. So by extension, what I am saying is this. As you expand, you will become more aware of both. But awareness of and experience of are two entirely different things altogether.
I agree.
Therefore, if you act on the positive premise, you will only get all 100% positive results. Where you will express the awareness of the negativity is through others. So therefore, you still maintain the balance. You still maintain the choice of having chosen to be in this reality and experience the parameters of it in terms of awareness. But you can literally never again have a negative experience. And again, because many other individuals do not at the same time believe this, will still be aware of the negativity through others. But there is a societal definition very often that is presented to many members of your society as you are, in that sense, growing. And that is that you must literally balance out positive experience with negative experience.
I don't agree with that.
That is a definition. And allow me to say, when you buy into it, we agree with the effect of it. In other words, when you buy into that, you will create that, you will create the evidence of that, and therefore seem like that's the only way. But when you begin to adopt, as we had shared at the beginning of the interaction, the positive actions, you no longer need to experience that balance as a retribution. You no longer need to create, quote unquote, and I am quoting now, your particular stream of this thought. You no longer need to create misery so that you can then appreciate your happiness. Now, that is one way to do it. And I wish again to underline that all ways are valid. Even that, obviously, that works.
So my question is for you in your society.
I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
But as I was saying, you can therefore nullify that effect in your own life. And this also extends to what you call karma. Karma is self-imposed in the way that you experience it. Sometimes You may call it retribution style or an eye for an eye. That is only one way to establish balance. Balance there is. Balance there will be. But if you are open-minded, balance can take many forms. And you can learn from something that you do that has a negative outcome through positive experience. You need not only balance it. For instance, if you kill someone by being killed, an example we use quite often. You can, in that sense, if you have explored murder and in your next life, colloquially speaking, wish to establish balance, yes, one way is to be murdered, and you can look over your shoulder for the rest of your life if you create it in that way. But another way is to be of assistance to someone else about to murder, or be of assistance to someone who has had a close relative who has been murdered. There are many ways to establish that balance. So even that retribution style karma in your society is self-imposed, bought into, and you need not experience it eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. In our society, we only, all of us, 100% of the time, experience positive results. We only always have a positive expectation and outlook. However, we are still physical. And again, one of the parameters of the type of physicality that we also, to some degree, share in common with you is the existence of the negative polarity. Therefore, our only awareness of negativity is through others, your civilization included. But we do not experience it directly and do not interpret anything according to that particular line of thinking. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I have another question that I think is really interesting. In this room, with all us physical humans here and you, can you tell us if there are any reincarnated souls of any saints or recognized people from our history? And if you are given permission to let us know about that?
Well, perhaps in that sense I will scan, although I will not in that sense have access to a question or answer that may come along a path of less resistance. So before I do, what is your impression?
I think that there may be a few people in this room who are reincarnations of recognized people that we know from our history.
All right. Is there anyone in particular that comes to mind?
Well, me.
And who do you feel a strong identification with?
I think it's a wonderful thing to know and explore.
Well, do understand that you have all lived thousands of lives, and only perhaps will perceive a few or none many times because of the relevance of what you explored in those lives. This life has a particular focus, has a particular, shall we say, point of view. Therefore, the other lives whereby the explorations were similar and would have some usefulness will be the ones you perceive as your only past lives. But you have literally each done it all in terms of exploring positive and great negativity in this reality. We are receiving no specific referential names. However, we'll again ask you, what is your perception of your own lineage?
All I can say really is that I've been trying to vibe it out, and
do you, in that sense, relate to what you call disciple of what you call Jesus?
Oh, yes.
All right. That is one of our strongest perceptions in terms of your own involvement. Though more specific than that, we will not get. Is there something
Means
else?
like one of the 12 apostles or disciples?
Not necessarily. understanding that there were far more than the mentioned 12.
Well, that's all you can get. That's all.
That's all. Only one of the disciples. Oh, well.
Well, I guess I don't understand, the depth of what having been a disciple of Jesus was.
Well, I assume you will now explore it.
Thank you.
But the more open-minded that you are, the more forthcoming that information will be. For it does come along the lines of least resistance. And you all have the ability to tap into past life experience by simply closing your eyes, taking 3 deep and loving and centering breaths, and then simply through your heart, feeling what perhaps area of your history most attracts you. Allow the imagery to float across your awareness. You will get a distinct period in history. You will get a distinct feeling of your role. At this point, most individuals say, I'm making it up. And that is why you lose the connection to this ability. But if you are willing to nurture and trust what you get, since your imagination could have provided anything, why did it provide what it did? Place significance on what it chose to present to you. Your imagination is, once again, a tool as well as a fantasy escape element. It is a tool. And the way that you nurture your relationship to it providing information is to trust the information that it provides and act on it any way that you can. For any information that you find out is all well and good. But the roads that it opens up and what it allows you to do is the bottom line. For you are physical beings in the physical world, and it is the actions, the doingness, that takes any concept and once again midwifes it into reality. Therefore, follow your own thread. Is there something else?
Thank you on that. And I do just have one more little small line of questioning.
All right, before you proceed, there will also be an emphasis from this point forward in these interactions, though from time to time it may serve purposes to deviate from this concept, but to remain as firmly focused in this life as possible.
Thank you. I know you've as with me specifically, you've asked me that, or you've pointed that out to me because I've asked you about past life things before.
And should you wonder, what can I get from a past life? Remind yourself that you already have everything you need in this life. Therefore, if you return your focus to this life, you will find it.
Thank you. I have a curiosity, and that, it strictly comes from curiosity more than, that's what I feel, more than from, wanting to know what I learn.
Well, we do not believe in what you sometimes call idle curiosity. For to us, any wondering, any curiosity is the sublime expression of your exploration. Do proceed.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, my beloved dog Richard passed away about 3.5 weeks ago.
Now, what does this allow you to now do?
It allows me a lot of wonderful things today.
All right, name 3.
Freedom. I don't have to go home and walk him tonight if I don't want to. I have no more dog hair collecting in my house. And I'm also relieved that he's not ill anymore.
Nice.
That's 3.
Do proceed.
Oh, okay.
What do you wish to know?
So,
Simply pointing you in the direction of using your creations in a positive way, which you obviously have done.
oh yeah, absolutely. He was a wonderful pet, but
Just checking.
there's positive stuff too. Well, I'm trying to stay sort of in the now. I sort of had some questions about future, but
Oh, trying to stay in the now. The now is the only time you ever exist. You literally need to try to not be in the now by focusing on a perceived past or a projected future. Therefore, what is right in front of you, the moment you ask that and look, you are back in the moment.
Well, I have one question. I always felt that he was incredibly intelligent and extremely highly evolved, and we had a very
Empathic
spiritual connection.
Yes.
And I don't know. From your perspective, would that be a valid?
Nice. But perhaps, again, your attention would best be placed on the freedom that you have created. For there are literally things that you can now do. Not to take anything away from that relationship. It served you. It provided the mutually exchanging unconditional love. But there are things that you can do now that you could not do. And that is how to be in the moment about this particular issue.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And our unconditional love to you.
And likewise to you.
Shutting.
Elan.
Ace.
Good evening.
Greetings.
I don't know. Where do I begin? Somalia. A lot is going on for me about the problems in Somalia. And
All right. Which situations that they have not allowed to transform are you referring to? For there are more than one in that area.
well, particularly the starvation issue.
Which is, in that sense, directly connected to the other political issue.
Yes. I have a couple questions around this. One is, I had asked you before, I feel that there's great momentum to my traveling and doing some kind of service work. And lately, this seems like this is the place where I belong. I've pursued a few channels that haven't, they're not the obvious channels yet. And I was wondering if, yes, there is momentum to that, and am I on the right track? And can you assist me in, like, what organizations would support that effort for me personally?
In terms of the specifics, no. We do not keep track of the comings and goings in that specific a way. However, our suggestion would again simply be to clarify how your excitement fits into this equation. You can, in that sense, be of service without physically, in that sense, going there. Is it your perception that it excites you to physically go there?
Yes.
Why?
Because I feel that people are needed there to assist, and I'm needed there.
All right. That seems quite clear within you.
Mm-hmm.
What will you do?
Find my way to get there.
All right. Have a good trip.
Thanks. Well, I'm not finished yet.
Then, neither am I.
The other side of, as you said, that's not necessarily the only way that I can assist. Through my business, I just recently had a meeting with an organization that's called Save the Children, that's local in this town. And they provide programs for saving children all over the world, and they are working very closely with the Somalia issue. We are orchestrating a program through my store where we are, well, one of the ideas we're exploring is that we would have an agricultural program that we would start supporting. So to teach these people how to do agricultural. So,
well, how creative. Now, rather than, in that sense, providing the loaf of bread, you are speaking of teaching them how to cook.
exactly.
Nice. This, in our particular perspective, would be more useful.
Then my going.
Well, not necessarily, but then, in that sense, again, providing something which will then create a reliance in the self-empowerment within however that is possible within that situation.
Okay. Another idea that I wondered if there was more momentum to this, or if it's not even a question about more or less, educating them on birth control would be another obvious issue that would ultimately help them.
To some degree.
not as much as the agricultural project?
To some degree.
Okay. The last question on this one issue is the message for the reason that they're creating this type of experience for themselves, but the message for the rest of us that aren't exploring that. What is the spiritual message?
There are many, and in fact, as many as there are individuals looking at it. Some of the overall messages are, in that sense, again, empowerment and your ability to begin from what is available to move your life in a particular direction. There are, even within that particular situation, though it may be difficult for you to see because you are focused the way that you are, still within the moment-to-moment reality of the individuals involved, certain choices. And again, though they may not have the same choices that you do, there is still within that framework their ability to choose what excites them most. And again, I know this translates thinly, but in a sense, it is our only method for communicating it. But from what is available within their daily reality, what excites them the most from those choices. So even from that level of disempowerment, of giving away your power, can you function with the particular set of, shall we say, approaches that we discuss with you, establishing who you are, choosing from what is available the thing that excites you the most, and acting with integrity on that particular issue. Also, in that sense, goes all the way across the spectrum to that reality. And were they to do so from what is available, not from what is not, you cannot do anything, or they cannot, about what is not available right then, but from what is, that would generate a positive momentum, even in the daily life, and even in the abundance level. So one other very strong assistance would be any living example of that particular perspective. Also understand that you all create 100% abundance. In that case, it is a 100% expression or an abundance in that sense of lack of abundance itself. But they are still as empowered as you are, and give you the opportunity to treat them that way, and to also look at the issues within yourself as to where you feel that individuals do have power and do not. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does.
Is that what you are asking?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's very helpful.
Is that all?
For the moment, yes.
All right. Then shedding. Ace.
It's hard, at least for me, it's hard to sometimes ask a question that's directly related to me. But I wanted to ask you a question.
Why not ask about a friend?
No, I don't want to ask.
All right.
That would be too easy.
Simply having some fun with the approach of your society.
Right.
Well, I have this friend, looks a lot like me, but it's not me. But sometimes it does get the point across.
Well, this friend has a question.
Oh, all right.
And she wants to know why she's here. Not why is she here on this planet, but why is she here and in this room with you?
Well, I assume that from what is available, this excites her the most. And therefore is representative, is in that sense the feedback to her that there is something within the interaction to take place and taking place that will directly be of assistance to you. Now, in general, it will be more than one thing. But very often, the stroking in that sense of individuals' self-empowerment can in and of itself be enough of a motivation to attract one to these interactions. The reminder of what you already know from a non-threatening source, from a non-insisting source, from an unconditionally loving source, that no matter what you choose, I will still love you. Does that ring a bell?
It does. I guess I knew that.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to express to your friend what you already knew.
Okay. I've been subscribing to that connecting link, the one that you're written up in.
All right.
And I started to read this particular new issue. And the thing that I find confusing is that so many of the different channels channel something really very different.
Well, how exciting! Why did he say that? Proceed and I'll tell you.
Proceed, tell you more? I mean, you want me to-
Nice. Proceed with what you are saying, and I will tell you why I said that. The co-fusing, the bringing together of many different things and fusing them together so they work for you is very exciting.
With the coming years ahead and all the what we're all going to be facing, the years, the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. Some of the people channeling are saying things that this transition from the 3rd to the 4th density is going to be a smooth one with a lot of love given from various directions, and that we will just move into that. Then some of the others are talking about all the horrors of what's going to happen to our Earth and to us. And it's really confusing.
All right. We will provide a practical example. A few months ago of your time, you had in your country what you call hurricane. Now, you, in that sense, were perhaps sitting in your house while the hurricane came. Perhaps felt nothing. Perhaps had some hot chocolate, sat in front of the fire. Perspective, there was no negative outcome, positive flowing outcome. From the perspective of the individuals affected directly by the hurricane, Armageddon. Therefore, both are true. Now, the question is not necessarily which will happen. Both will happen. The question is, which one will you choose? Which one will you manifest? Will your relationship with negativity be the experience of it or the awareness of it through others? Now, are enough individuals en masse to decide to have a positive outcome? Then the pockets of the negativity and the negative outcome will be quite small, as you say, few and far between. If many individuals decide the only way they can imagine changing to a new reality is by tearing down the old, then there will be some experience of this type of negativity and still, again, pockets in that sense of people who are not touched by it, may or may not be aware of it. If everyone is to decide in the negative outcome, then you will have Armageddon across the board. So the idea is that all probable futures are probable. And what makes them then your reality, your possible reality, is your perspective, your point of view, your foundational attitude behind your actions. For that is what creates your vibration. And if that vibration is of negativity, then yes, you will attract yourself to an area that will, in that sense, play out in negative terms. But if you only have a positive, unconditionally loving perspective, you are that vibration. And literally, can the houses around you be falling down and yours is not touched? Therefore, you have complete choice. And our only other perspective to bring out at this point would be that one particular scenario whereby an individual with positive, loving intention greatly fears the outcome you are sharing. We again point out that the fear itself is a statement. The fear itself is the same as saying that something you do not prefer is most likely. So when you feel that, look at it. Feel it, allow yourself to feel it, and then ask yourself, what am I believing to feel this? I will not deny that I fear it. I fear it. Now, what do I believe? Oh, I believe this. Well, when I believe this, look how I act. No wonder I get that. When I now believe the opposite thing I prefer to believe, That's when I plug in my imagination. That's when I see what the new belief would have me doing. That's when I then do the new things. Then I get a different result that will then not support the continuation of the fear, and in fact give evidence contrary to the necessity of the fear. It is truly up to you. Understand that what you are perceiving in that particular publication is a toolbox. Some of those tools will have absolutely no functional use to you. That does not mean that there is anything less useful about the tools that do apply. So our suggestion in instances such as this is perhaps do not assume the all or nothing approach. Either it all works for me or it's all nonsense. Take what does work for you and apply it. Look at what does not apply to you and understand that by merely the fact that you understand that it does not apply to you, it has served you. It has helped you define yourself. And by pushing it aside, leaves it there for someone else who may choose to use that tool. But you will find in interacting with many different individuals that the very articles, as you say, that are most offensive to your sensibility will be the very ones that they think are the only one in the magazine that makes sense. Therefore, it serves many purposes and many ends. Does this answer the question?
Yes.
Is that all?
Well, I had one more question.
Oh, do proceed.
I just thought of something else I didn't know.
Oh, right. How spontaneous.
I know there's something. When you said about the restructuring and everything, that's what triggered it. My husband and I and some friends are exploring, just begun the exploration of the idea of community. Do you see that as a trend in the future?
Describe your meaning.
People living together with a common philosophy.
Yes, we will find from our particular perspective and approach, there will be the emergence of what you call the solidification of the family. And this need not in any way necessarily mean your traditional family, but the idea of a family to rally around, and will then in that sense expand to what you sometimes call community effort. Yes. That will be one of the symptoms in that sense of the weaving back together of your society into a cohesive, cooperative structure, which is in that sense the necessity that is created is necessary to have one global community, which is what we perceive within the next 30 to 50 of your years you are moving toward as a society. Still separate, shall we say, expressions, but at the same time a cohesive global community.
And it's going to take 30 to 50 years?
At the outset. To some degree, you will find within the next 5 to 10 of your years, much of the groundwork being laid down. And it is possible when individuals such as yourself hear our sensing of this particular energy, if it is enjoyable to you, you can accelerate the timing.
That's nice.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
We think so. We thank you as well. Our unconditional love to you.
Yes. I had heard of spirit guides. What's the difference? Spirit guides and extraterrestrial being like you, we get guidance from you, but this is something new to me. I had always known about spirit guides.
Well, understand that you are all pure consciousness. What you are experiencing as being in a body is actually a body that you exist within, that you create within your consciousness. In other words, your consciousness is not truly in your body. It's the other way around. Your body is in your consciousness, is an expression of your consciousness itself. When in that sense you transform from the body and exist as perhaps you can say consciousness, that is generally what is referred to when individuals are discussing spirit or spirit guides. In other words, non-physical consciousness. In terms of extraterrestrial, at least as far as I am concerned, I am meaning that we have very similar to yourself, though there are many differences, physical bodies. I have a body. I have, perhaps you can say, friends. I have a spacecraft. I play games. I sometimes do many of the things that you and your society would consider daily life. Therefore, from my perspective, when speaking of extraterrestrials, we are speaking of consciousness in a body living on another planet. Now, there are also extraterrestrial non-physical consciousness, but for now, we mean physical. So again, my particular society, were we to stand face to face with you, I would appear approximately 5 feet of your height. My head, in that sense, would be slightly larger than your own and would have no hair. My eyes are upturned, almond-shaped, and black. My nose and mouth are, in that sense, more slight than your own, but in that way, still present and still, shall we say, functional. However, we no longer speak to each other in what you call words. We communicate with each other through the mind. Telepathically, as you say, we prefer to call it telempathically, for it is empathy. It is identifying with the vibration of and creating similar thoughts at the same time. Therefore, since we function in our society this way, it is not at all unusual or difficult for us to, when we find willing members of other societies, communicate directly with them telepathically, as you are seeing. So the difference in general will be what you generally call spirit guides no longer express as a body, are non-physical in that way. And in general, at least physically speaking, extraterrestrials will also imply body much as your own. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. And if this question sounds stupid, but
No such thing.
Can you just say yes or no to this question?
Yes or no to this question.
Are you intellectually so developed that you would be able to read my mind? Yes or no?
Yes.
And can that be mutual?
Yes.
Not necessarily with you, but with some beings.
Absolutely. And the vibration that would put you of the mind to do so is unconditional love, identification as that being.
The rest of my questions are for the answer.
All right. Then on that note, we will pause for a short break of 10 to 15 minutes of your counting and resume contact at that timing. All right, I'll say, before we continue, allow me to say the following. Though you are eternal beings, though you are always existing and have many reincarnational existence for the portion of your existence, so to speak, that you choose to be physical, you have lived many lives, been many different experiences and expressions. Do understand in no uncertain terms that the you are now only has one life to live, is only here in the form that you are with the parameters that are laid down once. Therefore, perhaps you can say overall your purpose in life is to live that life to the fullest, to be the best you that you can be. We have discussed many times that the sign that you all ask for, oh, how can I be the best me? Give me a sign, is your excitement itself. The vibration of that passion, the vibration of what moves you. Therefore, both overall in this life and in every given moment in this life, from whatever is right there, available to choose from to do, using the vibration of that excitement will always point you to what is most you. That excitement is your indication of the thing that, if you do, will be representative of what is most you. The best you can be. Therefore, understand by extension, if you determine from what is available in every given moment what excites you the most, and then act on that with integrity, you will be being the best you can be. And therefore will find it quite effortless to expect the best. On that note, allow us to proceed with the equal interaction and sharing. And once again, and for the first time, thank you all for your willingness to express what to us is always your best foot forward, your best side. And ask you once again, how may I be of service? Shira, ace, female, then male.
Hello, Elan.
Greetings to you.
Do you have access to communication with Shira at this moment?
Perhaps, depending upon what it is you wish in that sense to discuss. For you do.
I was wondering what she did today.
What is the curiosity based on?
A desire for understanding, connection.
All right. To what degree? What are you exploring so that I may tap into the specifics?
I can't put my finger on it. I feel like there's something I could learn.
All right. Perhaps I may rephrase. What did you feel that induced the asking of that question?
Desire for contact.
All right. Perhaps that makes good sense. One of her particular explorations, as well as my own, as well as what you sometimes call Bashar, will be to interface with many different societies. On this particular day, as perhaps you would align our day to your day, she was directly in contact with a faction of what you would call Pleiadian consciousness. Since incarnationally, she has, so to speak, roots in that system. Therefore, what would perhaps translate to your awareness as desire for contact was the desirous contact that was made. For in a sense, you may understand her to have visited, all right, a past self in that society. Since not only do we travel in that sense through space, but also through time. And we remind you that your scientists now recognize space and time as space-time, one thing. Do you understand?
I think I get most of it.
You got it all. And you may understand to have connections to that Pleiadian self as well, though more in that sense peripheral. You experienced her joy in reminiscing, so to speak.
Does she channel the way you do?
Do you mean to others?
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
that is one of the tools that we choose to utilize to approach civilizations slowly. First detecting and sensing the readiness for even this degree of contact. But in general, with certain societies, we refrain from face-to-face contact at first. Allow me to explain why. Now, there are many reasons. Allow me to explain one. As you, again, consider yourself to be a body, we again remind you that the body is within your consciousness, and the body itself has extensions that you do not perceive physically. Sometimes shall we say, a portion of this extension is perceived by some in your society as what you would call an aura or an electromagnetic field. Perhaps for the purposes of this explanation, we will call it the bioenergetic field. Your particular bioenergetic field as a society, as individuals in this society, contain, and again, this is colloquial for the purposes of explanation, gaps within them, rather than being perceived as continuous, and those gaps will represent the portions of yourself, for again, you are a whole being, that you do not view as one whole unbroken being. You carve portions of your consciousness up, so to speak, into segments, into sections, and file them, subconscious, unconscious, superconscious, and so forth. Therefore, this translates physically to your bioenergetic field as perhaps what might be perceived as lack of continuity or gaps. Our particular choice of expression is as a whole being. And before we go on, allow me to reiterate the fact that there is no qualitative difference in your choice and our choice. Our choice is no better than yours. There is no better and worse, only different. We are talking degrees of quantity, not quality. But our particular bioenergetic field reflects this completeness and perhaps vibrationally speaking will be at a higher frequency rate. For as you vibrate at a lower rate, you are literally more dense. Hence the density designation. However, when individuals come in close proximity with someone or something with an uninterrupted bioenergetic field, a more accelerated bioenergetic field, there is a particular effect that is created. We have used the analogy of gears being forced together, one moving fast and one moving slow. In that sense, when you force the gears together, though to some degree the faster gear will slow down, the far more pronounced effect is for the slower gear to be forced to the new speed. When in that sense our bioenergetic fields come in contact with your own bioenergetic field while it still expresses these gaps, the effect is to force your bioenergetic field to homogenize, to force you to close those gaps. And how that is perceived by you is all the issues that you have been tucking into the closets that you create come to the surface. When they do so all at once, unguarded, there tends to be a psychotic shock reaction. It is not our desire in any way in interacting with you to, in that sense, cause this effect. Therefore, we, in a sense, send ahead our intentions, send ahead our thoughts in the form of an ambassador such as this, and allow you through choice to attract yourself to interactions such as this, and then in deciding to incorporate what we are saying, automatically, by extension, you smooth out those gaps. You begin to integrate yourself. No longer a separative collection of parts, but now beginning one at a time in taking back your responsibility and power to smooth out and fill out your bioenergetic field. Individuals even exploring the topics that we are discussing have less gaps in their bioenergetic field than those simply unaware and unwilling to look at these issues. So, to some degree, were we to meet face to face, the effect that I have shared would be far reduced in an audience such as this audience is orientated. Therefore, again, we approach slowly, and we do so in love, and do so with, again, the extension of the choice from your end to believe it or not. It does not matter to us. Thank you.
Can I ask some more questions?
Hey.
Sort of forgot where I was.
Well,
Shira
Welcome to the moment.
I feel an acceleration in my creativity, in my desire to teach and guide others and to help others with their channels.
Hey, and you are doing so. By putting out the message, you allow other individuals so seeking that service to find you.
Is that interconnected? Since Shira is my future self, is that interconnected with something between us?
To the degree that you decide, yes. It is up to you. It does not need to be. It is not that that is the only definition or possibility, but it is available should you choose to access it in that way. Again, part and parcel of the expression of that energy will always be that energy reminding you and the individuals you interact with that they already contain it and that anything that actually happens to them is a result of what they have done. Not me, not Shira, not anyone else but yourself.
That sounds so exciting.
Oh, it is.
2 questions. One is, when we speak of the Pleiadians, I really don't know anything about it. I'd like to understand what level the galaxies are at, the different solar.
All right, allow us to be brief and simply explain that of the many expressions of extraterrestrial life, one that is in close observation of your planet is, shall we say, peripherally to the awareness of your government, though not directly, is a civilization that stems, so to speak, from a system you call the Pleiades system, which is a system of stars. Now, what is in that sense notable about them, being that there are many expressions of life observing your planet to varying degrees, is that of all these expressions of life, the Pleiadian expression would most, in that sense, resemble your own human physiognomy. They look, with only slight exceptions, exactly as you look. That is because historically, shall we say, soul-wise speaking, you have common origins. You are both offshoots of a common central civilization. Therefore, now in that sense that particular society is more blatantly observing and interacting with members of your society, there is now more the opportunity to directly attract them physically. And in that sense, again, they may be unrecognizable as extraterrestrials, so do they resemble human.
I understand the characteristics and qualities of the beings of Essassani and of Theta Reticulum. What would the basic qualities and characteristics be of the Pleiadians?
Perhaps, as an analogy, were you to picture your society functioning in the way that we have shared, positive interpretation, positive attitude, and positive action with positive outcome, you would have the Pleiadians. In a sense, you may understand that they never did choose to explore the degree of negativity that you do. But they draw great inspiration in the courage of your society to have done so. And in that sense, perhaps you can say, learn, and again, I am being quite liberally colloquial, by your mistakes, rather than performing them themselves in that way.
But they sound so similar to you. What's the difference between Essassani?
We are shorter,
But
more telepathically oriented. They still speak to some degree. And in that sense, again, are not in constant contact with them. We are different societies with different interests and different, in that sense, orientations, though there is the similarity of the exploration of other galaxies and planets.
and their exploration, you live spontaneously. Is that different for them?
Similar, but perhaps you can say a bit more similar to your own as well. Again, I understand that this may not translate completely, but it is in that sense the best I can do right now.
And I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Could I ask a question to that? Are they
You can ask.
fourth, transitional, fifth, or?
Actually, third transitional fourth. though again never having chosen to explore the degree of limitation and negativity that you did. In one sense, you can say they are your what if you had never explored negativity example, and you are their what if they had.
Now, Shira communicated with a so-called past life in the Pleiades today. Now, is that being part of me as well?
Again, more peripherally, your direct connection is to Shira, but one of the reasons that I shared this with you is you can explore that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Do not mean in that, shall we say, sense to give you too much to do. I know you're busy.
I'm calling out for help like crazy.
You're receiving it like sanely.
All right, I'm still caught on this Egypt thing, and I know that it's a matter of time unfolding.
Well, perhaps we will see you there.
I have some mental questions about it. Is there I know that I contain, and we all contain, all that we need wherever we are, so that there isn't a need and a requirement to go there.
Right, but in that sense, as we have shared, your excitement is a, shall we say, communication from what you sometimes call your higher self. So you will be excited about something because, in that sense, in attracting yourself to it, you will discover something there of significance. There is, again, as we have shared many times, a fine line between what you call excitement and anxiety. They are literally the same one energy, though the excitement is through the positive interpretation and the anxiety is through the negative.
And if I don't go there, I won't discover that, or will take longer to discover that?
You will discover either way. Perhaps one will be the discovery of what happens when you follow your excitement, and one will be the discovery of what happens when you don't. The what?
Problem.
The what? I am, as I have shared, becoming third density word deaf.
All right, it's my excitement to be there, but it's not my excitement to create a financial problem, and also my kids don't want me to go.
By the way, to attune your vocabulary to ours, we do not in that sense buy into what you call problem and choose to redefine that as a situation that you have not allowed to transform. Problem in that sense implies something unmovable, immutable, and there is no such thing. So what is the situation that you are not allowing to transform? Is it perhaps the issue in and of itself that what excites you will support you when you act upon it with integrity?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Oh, joy! Now you know.
Well, it would be easier for me to test that if I wasn't supporting my children financially.
If you say so.
There is the question of integrity here in terms of being responsible for my finances when I'm responsible for two other people.
All right. So what you are saying is?
My excitement also is to create a life of stability for me and my children, as well as adventure and openness to expanding.
All right. Do you feel that as you expand, that you can then utilize this expansion in assistance to them?
On emotional and spiritual levels, yes.
Do you feel that if you stagnate in that sense, though, again, you really never do, but if you feel that you do, that you will be as much of assistance to them?
But I never stagnate. I'm always working on myself, taking workshops that would draw out the couple of thousands of dollars that we're talking about here. So I don't stagnate.
All right. What will you do? Well, that is something as well. Unless you are instructing me in that sense to stand by.
I don't understand.
Are you telling me to wait, or are you saying you will wait?
Oh, I'm waiting to get some real clarity on the financial.
All right. Then you are doing something. Though if that is your perspective, our suggestion would be to keep your eyes out and not insist that there is only one form, that the particular abundance necessary to allow you to do the thing you wish will come. If you insist and rigidize, the only way I can do this is, for instance, the money, then you will miss any other opportunity that may come along that will bring you that expression in a path of less resistance than the money itself. Perhaps what will behoove you along these lines to instill as a perspective will be to some degree what we have already discussed with you. If it excites you, maintain it as a clear intention. This is what I intend to do. Look in the moment you are in right here, right now. Can I do anything about Egypt right now? No. Can't do this, can't. No. Maintain the clear intention. Act from what is available using your excitement to choose and your integrity in performing the action. By doing so and maintaining any clear intention, if it is in that sense to be of best benefit to you, it will happen. And you can accept the feedback from the reality to tell you in most obvious terms whether you will or won't. Does that make sense? And is that useful?
Yeah, I sort of was receiving that guidance.
However, when the opportunity comes along, that is when action will be required from your end. When of the things that are available in that moment, one of the things to act on is that opportunity. It will still require your willingness to act. It will not fall on your head. You, in that sense, will need be participatory once the opportunity presents itself. Clear intention, following your excitement, and when the opportunity comes along, clear action.
Is there any link up to meeting the man I'm looking for there?
No comment. It is not the point. Therefore, we will not comment upon it. But, as you say, and I will again be liberal with your slang, good try.
My love to you.
And you all as well. Over there, male.
Yes, Elan.
Greetings.
Getting back to the gaps in our auric field.
Again, that is an analogy, but it will do.
Okay. The effects of meeting a Pleaidian, would that effect be the same as meeting a person in a higher density, fourth density, like such as yourself?
It would be in that sense lessened, but still to some degree present. It will entirely depend upon the individual, their belief systems, and how much they have invested in the insistence that this is the only life in the universe. It can jar individuals and can be more, shall we say, nonchalant to others.
See.
They are, again, more, shall we say, akin to your vibration, for they are still in that sense third density, transitional to fourth. But in assuming the positive integrative perspective, there still is a difference in the bioenergetic fields.
Very synchronistic that you brought this up tonight, because I had been wondering about that in particular.
Well, what a coincidence.
And I also wanted to get your perspective of Dr. Greer's method of using lights, sound, and telepathic abilities to find extraterrestrials, let's say, attract them.
All right. What is it you wish to know?
Well, I'd like to give you my perspective of it first, and then see how it matches with yours. So, well, I figured that
One moment.
my perspective is that if the extraterrestrials are at any given distance, the telepathic connection must be most important of all, because they can sense the clear intent of the humans on this end.
Well, again, to some degree, for you cannot, in that sense, shall we say, have your mind read without your participation. Because telepathy is the product of unconditional love, you can very easily, from your end, shut that down. Do proceed.
I wondered, how far you think that some of these extraterrestrials can see the lights and hear the sounds that they're playing. Is it a great distance, or is that not an important?
Well, understand that the beacon that they follow is not the lights or sounds. There is the ability through very, shall we say, sensitive instrumentation to also perceive that from what you would consider to be quite a distance. But thought, the speed of thought, perhaps you can say, is in the sense the beacon that they hone in on. And very often, though you may find some usefulness in perhaps creating at first a translational language, the lights and sounds may come in handy. They are far more for the benefits of the humans. It is the telempathy that is, in a sense, doing, perhaps you can say, most or all of the job.
That's what my perspective of it.
But the humans, in that sense, will invest more confidence in the telepathy with, all right, a few visual and audio aids.
Okay, very good. That answers that question. The other question is about channeling in reference to your society and the history of the channeling from your society's perspective. At a previous channeling, I thought I heard you say that this was something new in your society, that you've only been channeling about 10 years?
No.
Or is that only to our society?
Only to your society in this particular format. Approximately 9 of your years.
I see. So it's a very old, by our way we judge time, it's a very old thing that you've done for thousands of years there.
Well, again, there is the arbitrary overlaying of our time streams. And as we have discussed to some degree, our flow of time differs from your own. Our perception as being located in a different dimension simply has to do with the fact that we create time at a faster flow than you. So you are attuned to perceive within the bandwidth of your flow of time. So when you speak about thousands of your years ago, it becomes quite arbitrary. From my particular perspective, we have been doing so for perhaps you can say hundreds of years, and had become aware of it by first being contacted in that way, but also being aware once in that sense, participating in the association of the many worlds that exists, that there was, shall we say, tale of civilizations approached too quickly, with disastrous results occurring. Therefore, this is perhaps you can say, in certain circumstances, the method of choice for first contact.
Okay. Now, Shira, she can visit a Pleiadian reincarnational self and experience that life.
In a sense, communicate with it. There will be the simultaneous experience at first, but then there is a reorientation, and they then perceive each other as separate beings.
And therefore, you obviously have that ability to be able to do that with Andrew if you wish, or if he wished.
If I wish, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Elan.
Oh, we thank you for your creative questions and your willingness to ponder the unponderable. There will be but a few moments remaining to this interaction. Sharing.
Elan.
Ice.
Greetings from both me and my brother.
Greetings to you both.
I have some questions about our condition once we die and enter the spirit form.
All right, how transformative.
Of what are we aware? Are we aware of our past lives?
In general, as a cross-sectional slice of what is commonly experienced, you will in that sense at first perceive yourself expanding. However you can translate that, please do. But the idea is you begin to get a sense that what you used to believe was the only thing that you were is but a part of you. The reality that you used to believe you existed within now exists within you. A very simple analogy would be when you quote unquote wake up from your nighttime sleeping dream reality. You, in that state, are connected to other aspects of yourself, other literal physical experiences. And while you are quote unquote dreaming, you believe you are within that reality, yes? When you awaken, you say, oh, must have just all been going on inside. The reality I used to think I was in that sense within is now within me. It is very similar. You are dreaming right now, though the definitions of this dream are slightly different from the other style of dream. And this will also begin to change as you consciously live this dream purposefully according to preference. You then knock down the necessity for the dichotomy of one style of dream and another, and it becomes one dream reality. But at first you experience this expansion, this absorption, if you will. Then very often, for certain individuals, there will be what you might sometimes, and again, this becomes colloquial. We are rendering this down to what makes sense as physical beings, but it is a non-physical experience. You may, in that sense, review certain aspects of your life, as has sometimes been supposed, in various forms, looking them over and assessing, in a sense, where you now stand and how it has allowed you to grow and learn. Then, in that sense, you become oriented into an overall, shall we say, more expanded reality that you become aware is quite fertile and not barren. From that point on, it becomes even more individual. Was there something specific you were seeking?
Well, so I might remember that I was one of Jesus's disciples, for example.
For example, yes.
Or that I knew Shakespeare and was one of his theatrical group.
Very often in the reviewing of the life you had just led, you will also, in that sense, create connections, significances, and analogies to other lives. In general, you will still be very strongly connected to the life you had just led because you are still, in general, within what you call a linear framework when you are that style of non-physical, in between, so to speak, non-physical.
Might I relate to future life?
It will depend on your purposes. In general, no. But when you begin to awaken to the ideas that we are discussing and become more conscious about it, it is an absolute possibility, yes.
What would I know about the status of those I left behind that I still care about, that I might even want to be a spirit guide for?
Well, in that sense, if they were still, quote unquote, living physical lives, you would, shall we say, establish a connection with them. And it would simply be obvious from the goings on of your, and again, this becomes colloquial, daily life in that reality, know how that would apply to those quote unquote loved ones. But it is an option, and perhaps you can say part and parcel of the orientation itself. For very often within what you call an orientation period of this type, you will either attract other individuals that you have known who have died, long lost cousin, long lost friend, grandfather. But also, very often, they will simply be a representation of your own consciousness, having perhaps already reincarnated, and will be presented to you in a form that you will be most comfortable. So it can literally be those individuals. It can be your version of them that you will interact with in assuming an orientation to that particular style or expression of your consciousness.
That may be the answer to my next question, which was Bashar had told me a year ago or so that my parents had both reincarnated, but would I still be able to somehow communicate to them?
Well, understand that you may be doing so literally telepathically in this life, but also understand again the following. And again, this becomes confusing. We are speaking about infinite concepts through finite means. But the oversoul is eternal, multidimensional, simultaneous, always existing. So even if there is the reincarnation, there is still, shall we say, the presence of the oversoul. So you can, from time to time, depending on the purposes, in general, it is rare, but shall we say, get in touch with that aspect of the oversoul that you relate to and identify as the deceased individual.
Once I die and go into spirit form, what would be my awareness or association with my oversoul?
Well, again, in that expansion, you come to realize that you are the oversoul. When you speak about connecting to an oversoul, that is from the presumption of being separated and is again colloquial and not accurate. You can create the seemingness of the separation, but you are your oversoul, inseparable. Simply at that point, you begin to realize it and acknowledge it, which you can do before translating.
And in that condition, do I know everything?
You know what you need to know. Because you are still exploring expansion in a linear way, very often you will still impose certain degrees of, shall we say, trains of thought.
Will my wish become instant reality?
Yes. You will have no time lag between the thinking of the thing and the manifestation of the reality. That is one of the physical definitions in this type of reality. Having a thought, performing a series of steps to manifest it. In that particular non-physical reality, as well as aspects of your sleeping dream reality, the having of the thought automatically is the having of the experience. This is why very often in sleeping dreams, individuals will go from one particular scenario to an entirely different scenario, entirely unrelated, think nothing of it, wake up and then say, oh my, I went from here to there and didn't even notice the difference. That is an example of the changing, the immediate conforming of the reality to the mere changing of the thought and belief.
Will I be able to relate directly to all that is?
Oh yes, and already do. That is not something you would achieve. That is something you always contain. For quite literally, you are not separate from all that is either. Otherwise, it would be all that is and you. You are all that is.
Then why do I have to progress further to be one with God?
You do not. Why are you assuming that you do? You can simply assume that you are already one with all that is. Use your imagination to see how you would act if you truly believe that, and begin to act that way. Then you will get the evidence you are seeking.
Because I have the idea that the progression we talk about, third to fourth, fourth to fifth, non-physical and on upwards, is to become the ultimate objective of being one with God.
That is a very third density way to look at it.
Okay.
Understand, you can look at it from the perspective of lacking and growing and achieving and becoming, or you can simply look at it from the same aspect of all that is, or your oversoul, as simply being, period. Just because I say so. Do you understand?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to listen to this tape. I can see the.
Well, you can go that route, or you can ask another question. 'Tis up to you.
Well, one of the aspects that always puzzled me a little bit is that we say we're multidimensional, and I'm not really sure what that really means.
Well, much of what we have been discussing is the expression of that multidimensionality. The fact that you are even considering many of these ideas is your version of beginning to express that multidimensionality. It is the assumption of unidimensionality that gives you the effect that you have now. But you are beginning to entertain the thoughts and beliefs in the other realities, and are therefore beginning right here, right now, to express multidimensional approach.
One time when I asked about Bigfoot, I was told, well, Bigfoot is really in a different dimension, but once in a while slips into our dimension, and that's when we see him.
In a sense, yes.
Then he disappears maybe right in front of our eyes, maybe.
Perhaps you may understand that there are overlapping areas of dimensionality. It is perhaps not as purposeful as them popping in and popping out. They go about their business, and there is overlappings whereby individuals then afford themselves the eyes to see beyond the quote-unquote norm.
One example of my being a multidimensional entity, that I can be in two different places at the same time. Is that an example?
Well, you already are, but you are not expressing the awareness of it. There is sometimes what you call bleed through from some of these other realities. If what you are doing has a relevance and something comes up as a memory, it is in general that reality occurring right now simultaneously, and you having the bleed through because there's some relevance.
Just one last quickie here, that since everything's connected, it's got to be connected. I find over the last 2-3 months maybe that I'm sort of sleepy and tired when I wouldn't expect to be. And my question is, I would like to believe that maybe I'm being rewired for something better, more progressive, enlightenment, whatever. Can you comment on that?
Nice. We would prefer for the analogy of symbology, for you to simply understand that the wiring is already all there. You are simply now beginning to use more of it. That is more accurate. You are beginning to now, shall we say, express your full potential.
Remembering some of what I've forgotten.
Nice. And using it to make it relevant, which then gives you more remembering.
Thank you very much.
And to you. Sharing. Nice.
This is my first time, so I'm not sure.
It is my first time as well.
I guess the thing that I'm listening to all this, and I've just recently become interested in all the stone chambers. I went on trips on stone chambers and crop circles and whatnot. I guess my question is, what is the purpose of my life? I've raised 2 children. I've been divorced. I'm trying to find a way to go right now.
All right. May I ask you a simple question? From all the things that you are aware of, what truly excites you the most?
I don't know.
Well, first of all, yes, you do. Now, that you realize that you know, what is it? We do understand that many of the things that excite you individually are things that you are talked out of by your society. But for the purposes of this identification, push that all aside. Again, we had asked, what floats your boat?
I'm sitting there, I'm looking at stone chambers. I'm going to go to a lecture on crop circles tomorrow. I'm here tonight. I'm a computer programmer. I've been doing a project on the side. I'm not real happy with my job. I want something a little more interesting.
All right. Are you going to tell me each thing that does not excite you so that you may eliminate one at a time? Or will you simply cut through it all and tell me what does excite you? Allow us to, as you say, play a game with this. Were I to hand you a bright and shiny brass lamp and say, if you rub this, you can do whatever it is you wish, what would you wish for?
A man named Tom.
All right. I did not say who. What to do would you wish to do?
What to do?
Yes.
I would be with him. I would.
No. What would you do? What truly excites you to do? Perhaps you can share that with him later, but for now, you to do. If you had your, as you say, druthers.
Computer programming, but doing something different than what I'm doing. I was doing computer graphics, and I love computer graphics. But I can't do it around here.
Why? And where has that assumption come from? It is, as you say, a lucrative field. Why have you defined, this is what I wish to do? No one's interested in it.
No, I could do it in California, but I don't want to move.
You could do it here as well. Where have you placed within you definitions that this is so geographical?
Because when I didn't, when I left my last job, I couldn't find another job in computer graphics. I looked and there just doesn't seem to be anything going on.
So what you are perhaps saying to me is that there is something that you wish to do, and you have so far found no one who is already doing it. Correct?
Nobody in this area.
All right. Then it would appear to me that you have the corner on the market. Now the question is, when will you decide that you deserve nothing less than that? And that by simply being excited to do that, you are most able to do that. It is most effortless for you to do that. It will be a great joy and lead you to the next thing to do that. Do you understand the point?
I think so.
Understand that what you consider to be professions upon your planet were not always professions. Someone came along and said, there's a need here. It excites me to do this. Well, there's no one else around doing it. I'll start. Are you willing to treat yourself with that much respect?
Oh, I'm scared.
All right. Very good. Why did I say very good? I'll tell you. Because you cannot get rid of fear. There's nowhere to put it. You are the universe. There is no outside. However, fear is a creation, like anything else. And your emotions are always a direct result of what you believe. So by identifying the fear, feeling the fear, you can establish within you what you must believe to be fearing. Once you have that belief, perhaps the belief that you do not create your own reality, then you can phrase the opposite belief. I do create my own reality. Try that on for size. How does that feel? Not fearful. See yourself now, the self that believes that and feels that. What are they doing in the situation that you are in? Why, they are making some phone calls. They are attracting individuals, doing some research, setting up the parameters. Then follow that you. Even though some residual fear may be present, you will be saying to that fear, all right, I acknowledge that I feel this because I believed that. And therefore I acted like I believe that. But now I am acting like I believe this. And reminding myself that I do believe this, you will then again recreate that good, positive, as you say, feeling. The bottom line is to honor and respect what excites you, and with your integrity. Understanding that everything is all one thing, integrated, acting on that excitement to whatever degree you can in any given moment. Is that of assistance? You do not sound sure.
Well, I've done a lot. I mean, I believe in the power of positive thinking and all that. I find it very difficult to do.
Well, that is the bottom line. The power of positive action. And the true power of positive thinking is the power to then perform the action. For it has no power if there is not an action behind it. So therefore, you have gotten the result already. Understand, you have already gotten a result. The result of the hesitation. The result of refusing to acknowledge the excitement. Therefore, you may now understand that should you choose to honor within you that excitement, you will get a result as intense, though more of a reflection of your preference rather than random. Perhaps it all boils down to get shaking. But while you are even performing those actions, always look what is in front of you, what the choices are, and only choose the thing from what is available in any given moment that actually excites you. Even if it has nothing to do with the computers and the graphics. Trust that the fact that it excites you means it does have something to do with the computer and the graphics. For if you're excited about one thing and excited about something seemingly totally unrelated, the excitement is what tells you they are related. And by acting on what is available with integrity, you generate a new set of results. Those set of results puts in front of you different things that wouldn't have been there to choose from, to then use that excitement to act upon. The whole picture will change the moment you take any action, and then trust that action, continue to perform those actions according to your excitement, and if the fear comes up, embrace it. Use it. It is your creation. You have created it to again be a window to a belief which no longer serves you. Therefore, by doing what I am suggesting, you are using it all and then choosing what you wish rather than seeing what cards you are dealt. Does that make it a little bit more accessible?
I will try.
Oh, now, all the trying in the world is simply the doing of trying and not the doing of the thing. Simply resolve to remove trying, which implies I may fail, and simply go forth and do it because you say so, because it serves you, because you love it. Therefore, it will serve others and is within full integrity. You deserve it. Oh, well, thank you. I have done nothing. Is that all?
Yes, thank you.
Before, in that sense, we depart, male in this area, is there a question or a statement?
I had a question about
All right, proceed.
from the first time I heard the Shira tapes, I realized that I was being drawn to this energy.
One moment. Bashar. Ice. Do proceed.
And I'm here now, tonight. Can you tell me why I'm here?
You are here because you are now willing in that sense to begin to think that it just might be possible to create the life that you desire in service of self and therefore by extension in service of others. You are here this evening because there are many unanswered questions within you. Things that lie beyond the sight, beyond the sound, that you have began to understand do have existence. You are here because you are now expressing your willingness to begin to collect back what you have again defined to be the many parts of yourself and begin to function as an integrated, complete being in service, in love, in light, opening up the channels and opening up the pathways to communicating with the many other portions of yourself and the many other portions of, shall we say, expressions of civilizations throughout the multiverse. Now, why do you think you're here?
There's something very strong in the energy that suggests perhaps a kinship. I have been told from another channel something that's very difficult to believe, that I'm from a different dimension.
Well, perhaps to you. In my reality, that is commonplace. I believe it. Now, how does that serve you? And how can the utilization of this information be applied?
That's something I'm still struggling with.
Well, perhaps that is the first place to look. Why struggle? Simply allow it to be as obvious as it is, and whatever is not obvious, trust that it is not now the timing to look at it. Struggling in that sense usually implies trying, attempting, but not quite simply allowing. Everything will become obvious. You do create in this reality as part of your physical beingness time, linear time, and therefore timing. Simply trust and all will become apparent in perfect timing.
Then it is true, as I have heard, that certain things will unfold at their time, no matter how much we struggle to speed the process up.
Well, in a sense. But the idea is that you can simply allow. The struggling implies a foiled attempt. Mm-hmm. The allowance is simply letting it happen. And utilizing an elaborate system of feedback with the reality that you're in to tell you of the timings. Well, this is not available. Obviously, this is not the timing. But this still excites me, so I will keep it as a clear intention and act on what is available. That then allows you to recognize and acknowledge the timing and still in that sense keep doing and moving without interrupting yourself.
That would explain why I keep being drawn to certain healing techniques and approaching one after the other, even though I have no way of utilizing them at the moment. That's the thing that excites me. That's where I feel drawn to go.
You are collecting knowledge and resources that perhaps, in that sense, colloquially speaking, will come in handy later, yes. Trust that excitement. But also, again, trust the fact that the timing is not forthcoming right now. Trust it. Also understand, all of you create your own reality. Not only you, all of you. Therefore, you can never truly heal anyone else. You can create a conducive atmosphere, but the healing and the diseasing is always created by each individual. The utilization of this knowledge puts the ball back in each prospective person's court and perhaps gives you an advantage in understanding that you are only a conducive conduit, a catalyst, an atmosphere. When a person will match you, heal themselves, and perhaps say, oh, thank you, you have healed me. What perhaps will set you apart from others is you will then say, well, perhaps this is a bit sneaky, but I am telling you, you have healed yourself in no uncertain terms. Then you are providing a full service. Then you are allowing them to take back their own power and have performed a useful integrative service as well. Is this of assistance?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
And to you. At this timing, allow us once again and for the first time to thank you all and express our love unconditionally and our appreciation and gratitude for your willingness to show us your best. For we expect the best from you, and you have not once let us down. You too can begin to expect the best from yourself. And your willingness again to simply, before performing an automatic negative action, to evaluate, to conjure up, to provide just one little alternative, can be in and of itself enough of a shift in your perspective to entirely transform your life. If your actions become all positively oriented, not only will you get positive results, as we have in that sense suggested that you will, but you will do so quite quickly. And what accelerates your reality to the creation of that reality in preference is your willingness to act this way. Therefore, you do not escape or run from the old non-preferred you. You simply, in walking toward the new preferred you, distance yourself by convention from that old non-preferred you. Automatic. You are not running from anything. You are walking toward what is now most representative of the best that you can be. We thank you and bid you a most fond and loving good evening.